Wynwood is a convolution of street art, a safari of colors and expressions by local and international artists. It morphed from a ghetto Latino neighborhood into a display of creativity.
Came back to Miami in 2007 and saw this neighborhood that when I was a child was really nothing more than an abandoned, decaying concept become this huge like mecca. My name is Trek 6 and I'm a local Miami urban artist. And I moved to Miami in the 80s, originally from Puerto Rico, from San Juan, Puerto Rico. My grandmother, being an owner of an art store, had many contacts in Puerto Rico. Many of them were what's considered the golden era of painting. The first time I had visited Wynwood was '92, is when I came out here as a kid. And it was to get into trouble. I mean, that's it. There's nothing more I could tell you about that. It was straight to get into trouble. Like, not because the neighborhood itself was designed to get into trouble, but wherever you have oppression, economic or otherwise, it creates hostile environments. You know, it was like many oppressed neighborhoods, you know, financially oppressed places. There's good people and there's bad people, you know, like anywhere. There's some really beautiful Puerto Rican families that have lived here.
In the 1950s, there was a large migration of Puerto Ricans into this area. The neighborhood began to be known as Little San Juan, representing the first big influx of Latinos into Miami. It happened a decade before Cubans settled further south in a community today called Little Havana.
It's one of those neighborhoods that, because it was abandoned, it allows people certain freedoms to do illegal things, to help. I mean, everyone knows, you know, either sell drugs or sell your body or whatever, you know, because the cops aren't out here really monitoring anything. So you gotta feed that addiction, you gotta feed that baby, you gotta feed your mouth, whatever, you gotta do what you gotta do to survive. And this was one of those places where that was the mentality.
In the 90s, it was very urban, you know, all the gentrification process hadn't started yet, you know, so it was a big Boricua community.
Cadena Inca is an urban artist, born and raised by his Puerto Rican parents in Wynwood. He witnessed the turbulent years of the neighborhood.
Yeah, there was a tragic death, you know, of a gentleman, a Boricua native of this neighborhood. Had to do some police violence or something, but there was more to it than that, you know, there was like corruption allegations and so on and so on. And his tragic death, how he was murdered, you know, in his house, and whatever the ruling was on how the police got acquitted, you know. And Miami was in a very big developmental stage.
Street art became part of Miami's evolution.
Originally, like most writers, it's about our name. I mean, that's what it always starts off as. You start off with a brand, your name. I've always been kind of artistically inclined. I took more to doing like the big, beautiful production pieces with lots of colors and characters, and it was a little bit more intricate. The benefit of Wynwood was it's a place where at least this aesthetic, the productions, is widely accepted. So it was a place where I could come paint during the day and build up my skill set and my technique and not have to be worried about, you know, authorities. Money hadn't really moved in yet. Money was starting to move in.
My name is Jessica Goldman-Srebnick, and I am the CEO of a company called Goldman Properties. Goldman Properties was founded by my dad, Tony Goldman, and our company and my dad has really been known for revitalizing neighborhoods. And so we go into neighborhoods very early on, like Soho in the 1970s, Miami Beach in the 1980s, Center City, Philadelphia in the 90s, Wall Street in the 90s, and we came here to Wynwood, which is where we're sitting today, in 2004, 2005. The most interesting element of Wynwood for us was its creative nature, the fact that we could use all of the facades of our buildings as canvases. And so we took all the backs of our buildings and we invited the greatest street artists in the world to come paint, and that was really the beginning of the Wynwood walls.
I started seeing all this like street art pop up, where before it was just, you know, the standard graffiti style aesthetic. And as I explored, I found out more about this Art Basel, and which originally was this convention that was happening, and how that convention now was moving into this neighborhood of Wynwood, and they were using graffiti art and urban murals to highlight and showcase the neighborhood.
Art Basel is an international fair that showcases modern and contemporary art by renowned and emergent artists. The Wynwood walls are now part of Art Basel.
I didn't really see too much of a balance between the local contingency and the international artists that were coming through. And I took it upon myself to do the best I can to try to represent the local point of view in the same hemisphere. This is one of my murals here. It could be seen off of 95. It's called Everlasting Base. It's a collaborative project between myself and another San Francisco artist. It's probably my most known mural. It's definitely one of the most photographed murals in all of Wynwood. It's become a Miami landmark. It's been used in everything from commercials with LeBron James to videos of all sorts. This piece I painted last Art Basel. It was part of an event by the Bushwick Collective, which is a New York collective that procured this property and hired a bunch of international artists and local artists to participate and decorate. And we had music and all kinds of fun activity. All these big money corporations now that use this as like their advertising platform during December. And so they'll buy a wall like this for $80,000. And of course they're not gonna put a local who doesn't have 1 million followers on that wall. They're gonna go and find the guy who's in every magazine.
We don't rent our walls for money. We give artists a platform unlike that they would ever have anywhere else. We have hundreds of thousands of people that come through these walls on a yearly basis. And all of a sudden, they know the names of Maya Hayek and Crash and Ron English, and the list goes on and on. We have elevated the level of art in this neighborhood. And so, no, it's not just anybody. Yes, anybody can paint. Maybe it's a little more challenging to find the spaces to paint, but it just means that you got to really up your game to be in the company of, of the world class that's really around this environment.
I love Wynwood. I wish it would still be Puerto Rican. Growing up a Puerto Rican in Miami from the 80s till now, I gotta say there were very few neighborhoods that were Puerto Rican. So I grew largely around Cubans and Dominicans. If we cease to have presence here, then we cease to exist. Because the media doesn't go outside of Wynwood. We have to stay active in this community because it's the one place where the international eye is looking. And so I cannot not paint in Wynwood. It's just too vast of a resource to ignore.
And this is like an epic center, seeing it as a kid, as a writer, as a hood guy, as a parent, somebody that worked in an executive world and crazy life in the hood. It's beautiful. It's, seeing all our cultures mingle, seeing kids where, you could walk down the street with a couple on the dangerous side of Wynwood and you'd be like, wow, look at this. This wouldn't happen, and you kick back. It's great, regardless of what anybody says. It's beautiful.